With The Force Awakens almost upon us, let's take a look at 50 unknown Star Wars facts. Also, I should mention that these aren't totally unknown. I mean, a lot of people had to know them for them to eventually filter down to me. And much of these are from the book How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. And I'm not getting paid to mention that, I just like that book. Even though, as we all know, books are for nerds. Alright, let's get into it. The original Star Wars crawl was long-winded and much more detailed. This is it here! I'm not reading it to you. The trash compactor scene carries over from Lucas's first feature film, THX 1138, which was to originally feature one. Lucas's original name for the dark side of the Force was called the Bogan, and some of the drafts included lines like, "Think of good things, drive the Bogan from your mind." Originally, the Death Star was to be more spiritual than technological, and contained all the Force of the Bogan. When 2001 A Space Odyssey was re-released in 1975, it finally broke even, helping the Fox board members greenlight Star Wars. Ralph McQuarrie's concept art was also key in convincing those at Fox to give Star Wars the go-ahead, as it helped sell them on Lucas's unusual ideas. McQuarrie actually imagined Vader as a ratty little guy, like a Tobey Maguire, but this painting and its use of perspective inspired Lucas to cast bodybuilder David Prowse. Without Ralph McQuarrie's early C-3PO painting, Anthony Daniels maintains he would have 100% not played his character. C-3PO was initially to have a used car salesman kind of voice, and R2-D2 could talk. Luke Skywalker actually had a nickname, and it was Wormy. It's mentioned in one of the deleted scenes.
Hey, you watch it.
Don't worry about it, Wormy.
Some of the deleted scenes include the Toshi station, an additional meeting of Luke and Biggs, and Aunt Beru dispensing blue milk. What a thrill! Chronologically, Greedo appeared first as a child in a Phantom Menace deleted scene, where somebody's all, "One day you'll get into trouble, Greedo." Amazing foreshadowing.
Yes, I bet you have.
George Lucas was planning to direct Apocalypse Now, but opted to reluctantly handball the project to Francis Ford Coppola so he could get Star Wars going. Coppola was also said to be some of the inspiration for Han Solo, due to Kenner being unable to meet the demands of Star Wars toys. An early bird special was released, which was basically a cardboard diorama that promised you figurines as soon as they were ready. And people actually bought this! In 1978, 42 million Star Wars items were sold, with the bulk of the profits going back to Lucas, who sacrificed much of his directing salary for merchandising rights. Star Wars spawned a number of knockoffs, and heavily influenced other franchises. It's directly responsible for Moonraker, Star Trek Coming to Cinema, and Flash Gordon. Also Star Crash? But you know, who cares? Lucas's second slate for the leads were Will Seltzer, Terry Nunn, and Christopher Walken. The now known trio were chosen because they were willing and available to shoot in London. Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford had a secret affair on Star Wars, with Ford once surprising her by hiding naked in her closet, only wearing a tie. This line here?
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
That was improvised. A bear was deprived of food for a day, then had milk and bread wafted under its nose to get the Chewbacca roar sound effect. In contrary to the belief that Wookiees built the Death Star, George Lucas has stated that it was primarily the Geonosians, which is way less interesting. The hologram game that Chewbacca is playing with 3PO and R2 is called Dejarik, and is one of the most popular games in the galaxy. The closest thing we have to it is probably Star Wars Angry Birds. The opening scene was to originally have 4 Star Destroyers, but with Lucas forking out 25 grand each month to his company Industrial Light and Magic, he ended up settling on 1. The original Millennium Falcon was actually the model used for the Tantive 4, and cost $25,000 in itself. It also has a miniaturized Playboy magazine in the cockpit that you probably can't see in the actual movie. Porkins was initially to be a pig man, but the prosthetics required didn't work out.
No, I'm all right.
Lucas cut together dogfight footage from old World War II films to act as reference to guide the special effects team.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars, that were only briefly mentioned, were set to parallel World War II, and the rebels battling the Empire reflects that of the Vietnam War. Tatooine is never mentioned by name in A New Hope. People to each other are just like, where are we? I don't know, some shit heap. This skeleton belongs to a crate dragon. Krayt? Krayat. Whatever it is, it can still be found lying in the Tunisian desert. Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope wasn't called Episode 4 A New Hope until 1981. Ben Kenobi was initially a more reluctant hero, and was also part cyborg. This one's fairly obvious, but Princess Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi, despite being prominent characters, never actually meet in this film, though she does get to watch him get cut in half. So that's pretty good. He's actually from the planet Stewjon, which was initially a passing comment made in jest, George Lucas said to Jon Stewart. Luke's full name isn't mentioned until he says it, out loud, with his helmet off, in a room that's presumably monitored.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
That's probably why the Empire knows who he is. What an idiot. The lightsaber only became known as such in the 4th draft. Before that, it was known as a laser sword. The stormtroopers were initially all to carry lightsabers. This decision actually carried over into the final costume, with this tube here initially used to house them. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen's brutal death was the only reason a G rating for the film was avoided. Grand Moff Tarkin is actually wearing carpet slippers in most shots, because the boots Peter Cushing was supplied were too small for his size 12 feet. There is only 9 minutes of Darth Vader screen time in total. David Prowse, the man wearing the Darth Vader costume, had no idea he was being dubbed over, with the crew thinking that he sounded ridiculous, even opting to call him Darth Farmer.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
Darth Vader's costume cost $1,100 to put together, with Luke's costing twice as much. George Lucas said in an early interview, shortly after the film was released, that Star Wars was 25% what he wanted to make, due to compromises and technological constraints. John Williams' score was the only part of the movie that Lucas was truly happy with. Director James Cameron actually quit truck driving after seeing Star Wars in order to make his own films. Lucas wanted to tamper with Star Wars as far back as when he discovered that it was a success. He asked Mark Hamill to come in and re-record some of his lines. Hamill declined.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Lucas first made mention of midichlorians back in 1977 in a role-playing session to help him flesh out concepts after the first movie. Spielberg and Lucas made a gentleman's agreement to give each other 2.5% profit from their respective films, Star Wars and Close Encounters. To date, Spielberg has made over $40 million on that deal. Lucas probably significantly less. Splinter of the Mind's Eye, a sequel book, was written in such a way that a cheap movie could be made from it. It has significantly less characters, omits Harrison Ford's Han Solo, who hadn't signed on to any subsequent films, and makes use of less and simpler locations. But trivia for a Star Wars sequel is a story for another day. I mean, video for another day. Look, I'm going to do one of these for Empire in like a month. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you are interested, I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet that covers movies and TV shows and comics. That comes out every Monday and will be linked below with other great videos from this channel. Question though, do you have a favorite Star Wars trivia fact? If you do, leave it in the comments and maybe Christian Bale will read it. Who knows? Thanks, everyone. Take care.